Hey guys, what's going on? Lee Sanders here from the RCWR show, covering all things wrestling, entertainment, and beyond since 2011, coming at you all with a special review. We have not done one of these in a good minute, so I really hope you guys enjoy. And hey, if you're new, welcome. Make sure if you have not done so already, you smash that subscribe button and click on the bell notification so you don't miss out on future content that comes your way on a weekly basis. We also do a podcast. So if you love all things wrestling and all that other jazz, you definitely want to check out the RCWR show airing Monday nights after WWE Raw goes off the air. You can catch the live webcast version on YouTube, but we also include an additional 30 to 40 minutes of bonus audio content exclusive for the show on demand and on the download. So nice little extra incentive of saying thanks to those of you for supporting the show on demand and on the download. So we're here today talking about the latest effort by Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette presents Behind the Curtain, Real Pro Wrestling Stories. This had came out last week. It actually had came out on Friday, August the 23rd. I actually had got a hold of a review copy weeks in advance, and I loved the book so much that I said, okay, and the version I ended up getting was a PDF version that I was able to get in review, but I loved halfway through what I was reading so much, I actually ended up buying a physical copy of the same book. And look, if you're a fan of Jim Cornette, you know how much he is a old school pro wrestling fan, how much he believes in the old ways and how the wrestling territories and just overall how things used to be in the business, how the boys had lived by a code and it was all about protecting the business, never breaking kayfabe and all that. And if you listen to his podcast on a weekly basis with co-host Brian Lass, you know that there are some things that he's seeing going on in the current climate in the pro wrestling world that he doesn't agree with. And say what you will about Mr. Jim Cornette, be it he's out of his mind, as some of you all would dub, or you feel maybe he's out of touch. One thing that I think we all can be in agreement on, he may not say the things that you want to hear, but what he speaks is the absolute gospel, right? May not be popular. It may ruffle some feathers, but I tell you what, when it comes to being totally blunt, it comes to being sincere, he's the go-to guy. So with that in mind, this latest effort of Behind the Curtain, Real Pro Wrestling Stories, I love this book on so many levels. So first off, the stories are by Jim Cornette and is written by Brandon Easton. The art is by Dennis Madry. And I'll show you guys a little bit of the artwork in just a little bit. But if you are into comic books, you're into the graphic novels as sometimes is dubbed as, right? This is something that you definitely want to pick up. If you're wondering, you may be of an age where you have kids. And maybe you listen to Jim Cornette, you know how sometimes he comes in on social media and on his shows with the laced profanity. Some of y'all may be wondering, okay, is this really something I could pick up for my kid that's maybe under the age of 15? They will be just fine. Okay, trust me. I've read this book twice and there is nothing obscure. There is nothing that's, oh my God, that's so vulgar. Your kids will be just fine reading this. I recommend this for anybody that truly consider themselves to be a pro wrestling fan. And what I mean by that is if you are a wrestling fan that goes beyond the current generation of talent that's happening right now in the WWE, AEW, if you are that wrestling fan that loves hearing about stories from yesteryears, or maybe you're a bit of a wrestling historian, or maybe you're a newer wrestling fan that honestly, hey, look, I kind of like what I'm seeing with what's going on with the new gen, but I kind of want to brush up and see what all I've been missing these past couple of decades. What's going on, to quote the Marvin Gaye song, right? Then this is a graphic novel that I highly recommend you guys go out of your way and you check out. Now, depending on where you purchase this, it has a United States retail value of $14.99. Canada, $19.99. Maybe you might be able to get it for a little lower than that. I know right now on Amazon, which I got my copy that way, I believe I was able to get my copy for about $15 and some change. I know there's the Kindle version or the iPad version. Basically, you can grab, and that's maybe a couple of dollars cheaper, right, than the physical copy. But the stories that are told in here, they break it down in so many chapters. And I actually took a couple of notes just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a recap and what all you can expect from this. Okay. So if you guys don't want to hear it, now's your time to pause, but do stick around because we're actually going to be doing a nice cool prize giveaway for a copy of Jim Cornette's book. But the stories that's covered in this is Sputnik Monroe, The Sheik, Jerry Lawler, and the late Andy Kaufman. I mean, this is a story that if you're a wrestling fan or you're just a casual wrestling fan, most people know the story about Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman and basically how Vince McMahon had an opportunity to work with these guys and make something happen with this angle, but he basically had passed and everything, kind of came back to bite him in the ass some years later, right? You also have Mr. Wrestling himself, Tim Woods. Of all the stories, that's definitely one I really was into. Junkyard Dog and Protecting Kayfabe. That story alone, I'm telling you, it really brings a whole new layer to Junkyard Dog that maybe a lot of you all don't know about. Like so many of us, when we think about Junkyard Dog, so many of us think about the Junkyard Dog that was in the WWF. But by then it was a very colorful, kid-friendly type of character that we were introduced to. You got to go back to the Junkyard Dog's time way before he even came into the WWF, because that was the stuff that was basically legendary. And when you hear about this story about Junkyard Dog and the extreme lengths that he went to protect the business and not break kayfabe, you can't help but go, what the hell? And the same thing goes for Mr. Wrestling, Tim Woods. And that name should sound familiar to you guys because his story, he was involved in that plane accident that had resulted in him, Jim Crockett Jr., the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Remember, everybody got severely injured in that. Some people were never gonna wrestle again. Ric Flair being one of those people, but somehow Ric Flair had defied the odds and he was able to continue wrestling for multiple decades. But Mr. Wrestling, Tim Woods, he was involved in that airplane crash. And he knew that if the press had got a hold of his wrestling name, that, hey, wait a minute. So Mr. Wrestling was actually on the airplane with, wait a minute. Thought heels and baby faces hate each other so much. They're supposed to be separate. They have separate entrances, separate locker rooms, all that other jazz. So wait, he's riding the plane with them? Like, what the hell is going on? So that would have hurt kayfabe tremendously. So the lengths that Mr. Wrestling had took to protect the business, you're just left in awe. You just marvel at it. Also, the sad story of Dr. Jerry Graham and his mother. You want to talk about somebody having a mental breakdown. That for me, of all the stories in this graphic novel, that for me was one I didn't really know that much about. All of the other guys, I kind of knew a little something on, but his story was the one that really, and I think for a lot of you all that don't know that much about it, when you get done reading it, that's definitely going to be the story that you're really going to remember the most, because his story was so heartbreaking. A guy in his prime that was so good. Very good with the promos, very good with the in-ring work and everything, but you know, he had been battling mental health problems for a couple of years, but it seemed as though when his mom was having failing health, that's ultimately what had pushed him over the edge. And I won't say any more than that, but that's one story that's very, very heartbreaking. Multi-Mania, Montreal Screwjob 1 and 2. Now, if you guys had saw the last season of Dark Side of the Ring on Viceland, you all know Jim Cornette had popped up for a few episodes. One of the episodes that he passionately was featured in was about the Montreal Screwjob. And remember, Vince Russo originally wasn't even slated to be on that same episode. The crew was trying to interview him to talk about something else. And somehow the Montreal Screwjob got brought up, and Vince is like, hey, bro, you know I was involved in that, right? You know I was there, right? And the next thing you know, Vince Russo had to put his 2 cents in, and you could just feed off of the hate relationship that Jim Cornette and Vince Russo have throughout that episode. But Jim Cornette had talked very passionately about how the Montreal Screwjob that occurred between Bret Hitman Hart and the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, how he basically was the one that pitched the idea to Vince McMahon. Hey, why not have Heartbreak Kid screw the Hitman? Just do it that way. And Vince McMahon kind of, but then we're going to have even more of a messed up situation. And then we all saw what the end result was. Well, Cornette talked about on Dark Side of the Ring how it all basically has stemmed, the Montreal Screwjob, how it stemmed from an original concept that went down decades before. And he got people caught up to speed. But to hear it more expanded in the graphic novel, it really kind of brings it full circle. Cause like Jim Cornette says, when something really good is happening in the business and it has a lot of people talking, and then it comes to who's responsible for this? Yeah, it was me. It was me. It was me. It was me. Right. So many hands went up, and like, I do believe that as far as, okay, so who's really telling the truth? Because we've heard Vince Russo kind of say, hey, look, I'm the one that actually pitched it to Mr. McMahon. But hey, it could have been Jim. I don't know, because I wasn't in on the conversations that Cornette was having with Vince. So who knows? I'm not really sure. But the way Jim Cornette laid it down on the Dark Side of the Ring Montreal Screwjob episode, and the way he recounts everything in here, I kind of trust his version to be more accurate, basically. And I mean, that pretty much, that also, there's a classic rib story that's in here. It is hilarious. I won't spoil it for you, but it's a really good rib story that continues to happen this very day amongst the wrestlers. That's how legendary this one rib story is. But there's a lot of laughs in here. There is definitely emotion. You know, keep in mind, you're reading a graphic novel, but there's definitely emotion, sadness, heartbreak. I mean, there's a whole wide range mixed of emotions that you go through as you read each chapter. And the way Jim Cornette breaks everything down, if you were ever a fan of the Twilight Zone under Rod Sterling, the way Jim Cornette basically comes in and he introduces the story, it's kind of like Rod Sterling, and then you don't see him again as pretty much the story is being told about what all had transpired. And then you don't see him again until he pretty much introduces the next story. So it's kind of cool how they got it set up. If you're ever a fan of Twilight Zone and all that, just kind of think around that realm. It's kind of cool how they got it set up. Now, as far as the illustration goes, I do want to show you a little bit more of some of the artwork that had came about. Come on in here, camera lady. And as I mentioned, the stories are by Jim Cornette, written by Brandon Easton. The art is by Dennis Madry. Great stuff. I mean, really, really great stuff. And Jim Cornette is a true wrestling historian. He has so many clips from over the years, way before he even got involved in the wrestling business. You know, he really, really, I'm telling you, he is the encyclopedia of freaking professional wrestling. So you see what I'm talking about, how he pretty much sets it all up and introducing and everything. And then, you know, you don't see him again as he's pretty much setting up the story and everything. And this is awesome. Sputnik really jumped out at me too, as far as what all was going on with race segregation. I mean, if you would have told me that, hey, here's this white guy that goes into a Negro bar, and he goes to that Negro bar because he sees that his character is one of those type of characters that is able to break all color barriers. And he's basically like for the people. I mean, this guy was light years ahead of his time. A lot of people want to kind of look at guys like Bruno Sammartino and a few others that really had broke the racial barriers and brought a whole bunch of people together. But one of the original godfathers of that was Sputnik or Sputnik. And to hear about him going to jail because he was in a Negro bar, you're like, wait a minute, what the hell? And of all the people to represent him, a Negro lawyer, a black lawyer would represent him and basically say, hey, look, according to you all's own rules, a Caucasian person has the right to be in any establishment that they wish to go to and be in, no matter what. And the judge, I mean, it's red-handed. The laws was right there. And the judge just basically was like, whatever. Okay, we're going to hit him with blah, 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 fine, case dismissed. Right? So kind of BS right there. So you see, I mean, the artwork is really, really awesome. I love how when he gets to the part about Vince Russo, he does not mention Russo's name whatsoever. He just says, and that guy. And then you're like, and see, this is what I'm talking about. He even includes real cool, actual photographs that he took for some of the events that he participated in. Some of these clippings are from his own private collection. I would love to see an episode of Dark Side of the Ring or somebody where they just do a whole hour showing Jim Cornette in his attic with all of his wrestling memorabilia. I think that would just be badass. So you see what I'm talking about. So it's great. It's awesome. So I highly recommend you guys go out of your way and check this out. It's a fantastic read. You can get this online. You can get this at your favorite comic book store. If your comic book store doesn't have it, I would like to believe by now in 2019, they could probably put in a special order for you guys. Now, I'm going to do something really cool for you guys. Very rare that we do prize giveaways, but we're going to actually be giving away a copy of this book, no strings attached. We've already paid for it. We've got it all set up through Amazon. There's a link that's included in the episode description of this video that you're checking out right now. So you can easily just scroll down there, check it out. You've got 7 days to enter. Okay. So basically at the time you're checking this out right now, it is Thursday, August the 29th. And so the contest is going to run for a whole week. All right. A whole week. So you have until next Thursday to get in on the contest. The winners will be announced on that respected Monday's RCWR show. Okay. So I know that's kind of like a lot of information, but the main thing you want to remember right now, from Thursday, August 29th until the following Thursday, whenever that is. And actually, if you can bear with me, I can give you guys the exact date. I just got to pull up the calendar here. It's the 4th. Camera lady is saying the 4th here, but let me just make sure that's actually, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's the 4th. Bear with me, guys. I'm sorry. I should have had this beforehand for you guys. I apologize. See, calendar. There we go. So I am seeing that would be Thursday the 5th. So you have from Thursday, August the 29th until Thursday, September 5th to enter the contest. We got it all set up through Amazon and you can enter that way. All right. And while you're at it, if you haven't done so, make sure you give me a follow on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Use the keywords, the RCWR show. But as far as Jim Cornette's presents Behind the Curtain, Real Pro Wrestling Stories, it gets a pass from me, 5 stars out of 5 stars. I love it. It is a fantastic read. I highly recommend, again, if you are a real pro wrestling fan, you are a big wrestling historian, or maybe you're a newer wrestling fan and you're just trying to get caught up to speed on some key milestones that have occurred over the past couple of decades, you can't go wrong with this. It's a great read and it has high replay value. Understand something. I'm not being endorsed in any type of way to put this over. I spent money for this copy. I spent money for the book that we're giving away for you guys. If anything, I just went out of my way, asked if I could get a review copy so I could check it out, give my honest take on it. And I thought it was pretty damn solid. So check it out. And if you did check out the book, let me know what you thought about it. Let me know in the comment section below or get at me all throughout social media. But for now, that's going to do it. For those of you that's going to enter the contest, best of luck to you. And until next go around, wishing all y'all to be safe. Most importantly, be kind to one another. Get at me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Use the keywords, the RCWR show, and join our Discord server. It's free. You can access it on all of your respected devices. Got all the information in the episode description of this piece. Check y'all out later. Go all out. For those of you that I'll be talking to this weekend, AEW, StarCast 3 all weekend, AEW's all out. We've got your coverage, so keep it right here. We got your hookup. Peace out, guys.